Wait. Before you move on to whatever is next in your feed, I want you to answer one question, honestly, just to yourself. No one else needs to know the answer. When was the last time you did something simply because it felt right to you? Not because it looked good, not because someone was watching, not because it fit into a plan, but purely because something inside you said yes. If you had to think hard to remember, stay here for the next few minutes, because I think this is exactly the conversation you have been needing. There is a strange kind of exhaustion that comes from a life built entirely around other people's expectations. It does not look like exhaustion from the outside. It often looks like success, like a full calendar, like someone who has everything together. But underneath it, there is a quiet ache. The ache of a person who cannot quite remember the last time they made a decision purely for themselves. We spend years building lives designed to be approved of, careers chosen to make our parents proud, relationships maintained to avoid disappointing someone, choices filtered constantly through the question, what will people think? Until eventually we lose track of a much more important question, the one we forgot to ask ourselves along the way, which is simply, what do I actually want? I want to tell you something that took me far too long to understand, and I do not want it to take you as long. The people whose approval you have been chasing your whole life are, mostly, too busy managing their own fear of disapproval to be paying close attention to you. We imagine an audience watching our every move, judging our every choice, and that imagined audience shapes decades of decisions, when in reality most people are so consumed with their own uncertainty that they rarely think about yours for more than a passing moment. I think the hardest part of walking out of that prison is not the fear of judgment itself. It is the fear of who you become once you are no longer defined by it. If you have spent years being the responsible one, the agreeable one, the one who never causes trouble, stepping outside of that identity feels disorienting, almost like losing a part of yourself, even though what you are actually losing is a role you never fully chose in the first place. This disorientation is normal. It does not mean you are doing something wrong. It means you are finally standing in unfamiliar territory, the territory of an honest life. And unfamiliar things always feel uncomfortable before they feel like home. Let me ask you something else. What is the version of your life that exists only in your imagination? The one you think about late at night or during long drives? The one you have never told anyone about because saying it out loud would make it feel too real, too risky, too likely to be judged as impractical? I want you to know that the fact this vision still exists, after everything, after every reason you have found to dismiss it, means something. Dreams that were never actually yours tend to fade over time, quietly replaced by whatever seems more practical. But dreams that are genuinely yours have a stubborn kind of persistence. They keep showing up, uninvited, refusing to be fully buried. No matter how many times you have told yourself it is too late, too risky, or too impractical to pursue them, I am not telling you to abandon responsibility and chase every impulse recklessly. That is not wisdom. That is simply a different kind of self-harm dressed up as freedom. What I am asking is smaller and more honest than that. I am asking you to stop pretending the dream does not exist. You do not have to act on it today. You do not have to blow up your entire life to prove you are finally listening to yourself. You simply have to stop lying about it to yourself. In the quiet moments when no one else would ever know if you told the truth, that single act of acknowledgement, even without immediate action, changes something important. It moves the dream from a secret you are ashamed of into an honest part of who you are. And honest things, once acknowledged, have a way of eventually finding their path forward. Even slowly, even imperfectly. I want to talk about the specific fear of disappointing people, because I think it quietly controls more decisions than almost any other fear we carry. We are taught, often without anyone meaning to teach us this directly, that disappointing someone we love is one of the worst things we can do. And so we shape our choices, our boundaries, even our identities, around avoiding that disappointment, sometimes at the cost of our own well-being. But I want to offer you a different way of seeing this. Disappointing someone is not the same as harming them. It simply means their expectation and your reality did not match. And that mismatch, uncomfortable as it feels, is not automatically your fault to fix by shrinking yourself to fit their expectation instead. The people who genuinely love you, the ones capable of loving the real version of you rather than a performance designed to please them, will eventually adjust to your honesty, even if the adjustment takes time, and even if there is some initial disappointment along the way. And the people who cannot adjust, who need you to remain small and predictable in order to stay comfortable, are revealing something important about the actual nature of that relationship, something worth knowing clearly, rather than continuing to hide from behind years of careful accommodation. I want to say something about the specific kind of courage required simply to rest, because I think, in a culture obsessed with productivity, rest has quietly become something we feel we need to earn, rather than something we are simply allowed to have. How often do you actually let yourself rest, without a background hum of guilt, without mentally listing everything you should be doing? Instead, if the honest answer is rarely, I want you to consider where that belief came from. The belief that your value is measured by your output, that stillness is only acceptable once every task has been completed, when in reality, the list of tasks never actually ends. It simply regenerates itself endlessly, which means waiting for permission to rest until everything is done means waiting for a permission that will never actually arrive. Rest is not something you have to earn through exhaustion. It is something you are allowed to choose, deliberately, even in the middle of an unfinished list, because you are a human being, not a machine measured purely by productivity. I want you to notice, the next time you feel that familiar guilt creeping in during a quiet moment, that the guilt itself is not evidence you are doing something wrong. It is simply evidence of a belief you absorbed somewhere along the way, a belief you are allowed to question, and eventually, if you choose, to release. I want to close by talking about the small, ordinary moments that quietly make up the majority of a life, because I think we underestimate how much they actually matter. We spend so much energy anticipating the big milestones, the achievements, the arrivals, that we forget the actual texture of a life is made almost entirely out of ordinary Tuesdays, out of small conversations, out of quiet mornings and unremarkable evenings that no one will ever write a headline about. If you are only waiting for the big moments to feel alive, you are missing almost the entire actual substance of your own existence, because the big moments are rare, and everything in between them is where a real life is actually lived. I want to invite you, starting today, to bring a little more presence into those ordinary moments, not because they need to become extraordinary, but because they deserve your genuine attention simply for what they already are. The warmth of a conversation with someone you love, the quiet satisfaction of finishing a small task well, the simple pleasure of a meal eaten slowly instead of rushed through while distracted. These moments are not consolation prizes while you wait for the bigger life to begin. They are the actual life, happening right now, whether you notice it or not. So here is what I want to leave you with. You are allowed to want more for yourself, without guilt, without needing to justify that desire to anyone. You are allowed to disappoint people occasionally in service of living. Honestly, you are allowed to rest without earning it first. And you are allowed, more than anything, to stop waiting for some future version of your life to finally begin. Because this exact moment, ordinary as it might feel, unfinished as it might be, is already the beginning. It has been the whole time, You simply needed someone to remind you to notice it. I want to add one more thing before I let you go, because I think it deserves its own space rather than being rushed past. I want to talk about the specific relief that comes from finally admitting something true, even if nothing about your circumstances changes immediately afterward. There is a strange kind of power in simply naming a truth you have been avoiding, even silently, even only to yourself. Something in the body relaxes slightly the moment a hidden truth is finally acknowledged, even before any action follows it. This is because so much of our exhaustion does not come from our circumstances directly. It comes from the constant effort of maintaining the lie that everything is fine when part of us knows it is not. If there is a truth you have been avoiding, something about a relationship, a career, a pattern in your own behavior, a dream you have quietly buried, I want to invite you to simply name it. Today, even if only in the privacy of your own mind. You do not have to solve it immediately. You do not have to have a plan ready before you are allowed to acknowledge it. Just let it be true, out loud or in silence, and notice what shifts, even slightly, once you stop pretending otherwise. I also want to say something about patience with yourself, because I think we extend so much more grace to other people than we ever offer ourselves. If a friend came to you struggling with the exact same fears you are carrying right now, the same uncertainty, the same slow progress, the same repeated mistakes, would you criticize them as harshly as you criticize yourself? I doubt it. You would probably remind them that growth takes time, that setbacks do not erase progress, that being hard on yourself has never actually been the thing that produces lasting change. I want you to try offering yourself that same patience, starting today, not as an excuse to stop trying, but as a more sustainable foundation from which to keep trying, again and again, without collapsing into shame every time progress feels slower than you hoped. Here is something else worth remembering. Every person you admire for their calm, their clarity, their apparent ease with life, was once exactly where you are right now, uncertain, still figuring things out, still learning how to trust themselves. Nobody arrives at groundedness through some shortcut you have simply not discovered yet. They arrive at it slowly, through the accumulation of honest choices, through failures they did not let define them, through seasons of doubt they walked through instead of around. You are not behind. You are simply in the middle of your own version of that same process. And the middle, uncomfortable as it feels, is exactly where growth actually happens. I want to leave you with a small, practical invitation before you go. Today, at some point, do one thing purely because it feels honest to you. Not because it will be noticed. Not because it fits neatly into your plans, simply because some quiet part of you wants to. It can be small. A conversation you have been avoiding. A boundary you finally hold. An hour spent on something you love, purely for the joy of it, without needing it to be productive or impressive to anyone else. That single honest choice, however small, is how you begin practicing the life you actually want, instead of continuing to wait for permission to start living it fully. You already have everything you need to begin. Not perfect certainty, not a flawless plan. Just enough honesty to take the next step. And then the one after that, one true choice at a time, until the life you have been quietly imagining slowly becomes the life you are actually living. And if you take nothing else from these words, take this. You are not too late. You are not too far behind to change direction. The years you spent unsure, hesitant, quietly performing a version of yourself that never quite fit, were not wasted. They were simply the path that led you to this exact moment of noticing. And noticing is always where real change actually begins. So breathe. Let go of whatever version of yourself you have been forcing on today, and walk forward. Gently, honestly, one true step at a time, into the life that has been waiting for you to finally choose it.